Howdy folks, Jamboriki here. Pixar is a studio that's produced so many successful iconic films that their work has gained a reputation for being the highest tier of animated family entertainment. But like any studio, this is a company run by humans, not gods, so they're going to make failures now and again. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my personal choices for the top 5 best and worst Pixar movies. This is not a definitive list, it's just my own. There's a big chance that my list is going to be different to yours, and that's totally fine. I did not make these choices to piss people off, I'm just trying to be honest about how I felt after watching all the Pixar films. In other words, try to be civil in the comment section, folks. But before we begin, 2 rules. Rule number 1, I'm not going to be counting Pixar shorts, I've already made a countdown on those productions. Rule number 2, The Incredibles 2 is currently not in UK cinemas, so I've not had a chance to see it, so I'm afraid that it's not going to be included in my countdown. You got it? Okay, let's begin! Here are my choices for the top 5 worst Pixar films. A Bug's Life. Every day, an ant colony is forced to serve a cloud of grasshoppers by stocking food for them, but when the clumsy inventor Flick accidentally knocks over the newest batch, their leader Hopper is outraged and gives the ants an even harsher deadline for the next harvest. Princess Atta has no idea what to do with this quirky ant, but Flick offers to track down bigger insects to protect the colony. Flick goes to the big city, he mistakes a circus troupe for real warriors, and they in return assume that he is a talent agent. Flick brings these clowns and magicians back to his home, and his colony is very excited by their new protectors, but he discovers the truth about them and must try to convince everyone that these circus performers are brave heroes. Growing up, I loved this movie as a kid, but watching it again for this countdown, well, I don't think it's aged very well. It's your typical Liar's Act story that relies on the same gag of a character telling rubbish fibs through their teeth, until we get the cliche liar's reveal and it's just a bunch of moping around. Also, in all honesty, I never rooted for the ants and found myself cheering more for the grasshoppers. I actually find the ants to be quite irritating. If they feel any emotion, whether it's excitement, annoyance, fear, sadness, they express it on the most extreme end of the spectrum. I get why they would be this anxious and sensitive, but it's too much. It could have been toned down a little bit, because it makes them overwhelming to watch. It doesn't help that a lot of the ants go underdeveloped as well. However, Atta's sister Dot is pretty cute, maybe too cutesy. Plus the Queen seems cool because she's the only adult that comes across as calm and collected. And the circus bugs are just one-joke characters that aren't as funny as I remember. Don't get me wrong, there are reasons why it's so low on my worst list. The grasshoppers steal the movie, as they are effectively intimidating towards the ants and deliver the biggest laughs in the movie.
Oh, come on! It's a great story! Ow, 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 ow.
I swear, if I hadn't promised Mother on her deathbed that I wouldn't kill you, I would kill you!
And believe me, no one appreciates that more than I do.
Shut up! I don't want to hear another word out of you while we're on this island. Do you understand me? I said, do you understand me?
Well, how can I answer? You said I couldn't say another word! Ah, remember, Mom?
Plus Hopper poses as a legitimately creepy main villain. And the film does include a nice message about finding your self-worth after being pushed around by bullies. But there's still things that are annoying about it that warrant it being on my top 5 worst list. Cars. This movie follows hotshot racing car Lightning McQueen, who wants to win the Piston Cup and becomes sponsored by the big corporation Dynaco. However, while traveling, he gets lost and accidentally ends up wrecking the small town of Radiator Springs. The townspeople force him to pay for his destruction by making him fix their road. While committing to this community service, Lightning gets to know the local characters, including hotel owner Sally, former racing legend Doc Hudson, and rusty tow truck Mater. This is certainly one of the more divisive Pixar movies. Some people like that it's one of the quieter and smaller films from the studio, but others can't stand it. Personally, I can see both sides, and would have to say that I have mixed feelings. Sure, Radiator Springs has a nice relaxing atmosphere, likeable townspeople, and gorgeous scenery, plus the movie includes good messages about appreciating the countryside, supporting small businesses, and being a good sport in competitions. On the other hand, it's a very generic story that's been done to death, the fable of a spoiled city person learning about the humble charm of the countryside, making the narrative rather predictable. But my biggest grievance, the aspect that ruins the film for me, is Lightning McQueen. Lightning is a self-absorbed, rude, spiteful and phony racing car. Now, it is possible to have your protagonist be a jerk, but that can't be everything to them. They have to have redeemable qualities. But I find nothing charming, cool, funny or likable about Lightning. Not even seeing him get hurt or humiliated is satisfying because the film doesn't go far enough with his painful reactions or screams. Now yes, Lightning does change his attitude later on and then performs selfless gestures for others, but this more likeable and good-hearted Lightning doesn't appear until an hour into the movie. He doesn't even foreshadow a nicer side to him before this hour mark, making his sudden change of heart feel out of left field. I have to sit there watching this asshole feeling sorry for himself, insulting those around him and acting like a massive prick for the first hour of the movie and enjoy myself? I'm sorry, but that's asking too much of me.
It looks awful.
Now it matches the rest of the town.
This movie might be kind of cute, and I know it's a nostalgic favourite to some people, but Lightning's redemption story ruins it for me. The Good Dinosaur. In this film's alternate universe, the asteroid that was destined to wipe out the dinosaurs has missed Earth, and now dinosaurs are the dominant species of the planet. We center on a young, fearful Apatosaurus called Arlo, who ends up being lost in the wilderness and befriends a little cave boy that he names Spot. The two journey back to Arlo's home and meet a variety of other dinosaurs along the way. Now, this movie isn't particularly awful, but it's not that great either. It's just okay. Sure, it has some beautiful Western backgrounds, it finds clever ways to help Arlo and Spot communicate, plus it features a terrific message about fear and courage not being mutual feelings. That it's healthy to feel scared while doing something challenging. It's just, there's not much really to it, and I find it pretty forgettable. As a prehistoric movie set in a world where dinosaurs rule, it doesn't do much with its concept besides switch humans with dinosaurs. As a child and their pet story, it simply follows all the predictable beats we expect from this kind of tale. From being scared of the pet at first, then befriending it, followed by protecting it from forces that want it, and finally reluctantly letting it go. I think it's a good film for what it is. It's pretty cute, and I'm sure that many kids will be happy watching it, but when you ask me to rank it next to all the other Pixar movies, it doesn't stand a chance of competing, I'm afraid. Brave. Set in the Highlands of medieval Scotland, Brave is about a princess called Merida, who is being forced into marriage by her mother, so she purchases a magic cake from a witch, hoping that it will change the queen's mind. But it transforms her into a bear instead. Merida must find a way to turn her mum back to normal, while clans fight over who gets to betroth the princess. Folks, I've watched this movie twice now. I'm sorry, but I just can't get into it, and think it's a huge low point for Pixar. One thing I love about Pixar is that even though Disney distributes their films, they've always tried to do their own thing, but Brave abandons this in favour of going directly into Disney's territory. It doesn't even do anything fresh or clever with the Disney aesthetic. This is a film that thinks it's accomplishing new grounds, but it's doing the complete opposite, as all its ideas can be charted back to other Disney movies. These unoriginal concepts are all the film has going for it too. It's a paper-thin plotline that gets stretched out until it gets wrinkles. I also find this film really annoying. Most of the runtime consists of characters arguing, fighting, bickering, shouting, moaning, whining and screaming. It's like we're watching a Scottish soap opera. It's all too much and makes it hard to enjoy the characters' company. Plus, when the movie attempts to introduce humour into the mix, it fails to get a laugh out of me because the comedy is so desperate and juvenile. It's way too lowbrow for Pixar standards. However, I did find the Queen trying to be classy in her bare form to be pretty funny, I'll admit that. Personally, I found Brave to be a melodramatic and irritating film. If you're a fan, then all power to you, but I think that it's one of Pixar's worst efforts. Cars 2. In this sequel to Cars, Lightning McQueen enters the World Grand Prix. He agrees to bring his best friend Mater along as his assistant. While travelling the world, Mater ends up being mistaken for being a spy, and he gets caught up in a mission to thwart a British villain called Sir Miles Axelrod. This causes tension between Mater and Lightning as their friendship is tested. Yeah, you all knew that this film would be my number one pick, but can you really blame me? This is one awful movie. While Mater made for a likeable comic relief character in the first Cars film, shifting him into the role of lead star was this sequel's biggest mistake. Mater's personality has been exaggerated to annoying levels, and his intelligence is even lower than before. Also, the movie can force one unfunny contrived joke after another. The worst thing about this film though, its message. It wants to teach audiences that you should be accepting of who your friends are by shaming Lightning for getting angry at Mater's behaviour in public. But here's the problem. Lightning has every right to scold Mater. He's a self-entitled, obnoxious, loud, ignorant and rude character who consistently ignores how much he's embarrassing Lightning. I'm sure Pixar didn't mean any ill will, but the message comes across as, if your friend humiliates you in public by acting like a rude, loud idiot, you should let them. They are entitled to this behaviour, they are just being themselves and you're a bad person if you tell them to stop it. This is a very harmful message for children that could lead them to being stuck in friendships that make them feel uncomfortable, and it's like the message is giving kids a free pass to act like Logan Paul. Cars 2 is a disaster of a film that really tarnished Pixar's reputation, and in my opinion, it's the worst movie they've made to date. So those were my picks for the top 5 worst Pixar movies. What about my favourites? Which would I consider to be the top 5 best? Well... WALL-E. Set during the distant future where Earth has been ravished by pollution, we center on a rusty trash compactor called WALL-E, who falls in love with a sleek vegetation locator called Eve. When Eve finds a plant in WALL-E's home, she collects it and shuts down. A rocket comes to pick her up. WALL-E tags along and we arrive at the Axiom ship, which is holding humankind, who are being entirely catered to by computers and robots. The captain is amazed that vegetation was found by Eve, but his autopilot refuses to steer the ship around, believing Earth will be too toxic to return to. It's up to WALL-E and Eve to protect the plant while the captain tries to defeat Otto. Now, yes, I will admit that this movie can be preachy about its environmental message.
Out there is our home. Home, Otto, and it's in trouble. I can't just sit here and do nothing. That's all I've ever done. That's all anyone in this blasted ship has ever done. Nothing! But,
as director Andrew Stanton has stated, this aspect of the movie is the background for the real heart of the film, a romance between two robots. Even though these characters are limited in dialogue and have very mechanical, abstract designs, we can see so much emotion and personality in both of them. Through vivid animation and strong, electronically filtered voice acting, we completely read what these two are thinking. It's amazing. The strength of this romance lies in how authentic the character's true love is portrayed, with WALL-E selflessly doing whatever he can to make Eve happy and safe, as Eve sees through his rusty shell and discovers a robot with a heart of gold. WALL-E also helps to bring out Eve's more human side, making her laugh with joy and stop to see an exciting world outside her programmed tasks. Many people feel as if the movie loses its charm once we arrive on the Axiom, but I strongly disagree. I find the captain's passion for Earth to be adorable, and his motivation to be a responsible leader very inspiring. I also think that the eccentric robots working on the ship can be very fun, and a poignant subplot about two humans rediscovering a world outside technology and the feeling of human intimacy beautifully mirrors Wall-E and Eve's love story. While I do think that Wall-E's themes are a tad on the nose, it's still one of my favourite Pixar movies, because it's full of so much soul, affection, love and passion. Finding Nemo. Clownfish Marlin is very protective of his son Nemo after losing his wife and other children to a predator. His helicopter-style parenting becomes so overwhelming for little Nemo that he decides to disobey his dad just to wind him up. However, this gets Nemo caught by a deep-sea diver. Nemo ends up in a dentist fish tank where he meets a group of quirky aquarium life and agrees to use his small size to help them all escape. Meanwhile, Marlin bumps into a fish with short-term memory loss called Dory, who enthusiastically wants to help the frightened father find his stolen child. I have something very personal to admit. Right now in my life, as I draw closer to being in my 30s, I am developing very paternal feelings, and will love to become a dad someday. My fear is that because I'm a very anxious man who panics easily, will I be annoyingly overprotective of my kid? Rewatching this film as an adult, I found a sense of comfort, knowing that maybe I'll be okay. This is a wonderfully made movie that speaks to both generations of audiences. While on his adventure with Dory, Marlin learns that trying too hard to control or monitor your child can be unhealthy, as extreme safety measures can make your family's life boring and push you apart. While Nemo develops respect for his father after he learns that his dad is capable of being brave in the name of love, and this courage motivates him to escape the tank. Marlin and Dory's adventure is full of exciting momentum and solid comedy, with entertaining characters to meet and scary obstacles to face. Plus, Nemo's escape from the tank is oozing with nail-biting tension, as director Andrew Stanton directs it with the same cinematic maturity as a prison thriller, just less dark and violent. This is one of Pixar's finest features in my opinion, a true gem that will resonate with both parents and children. The Incredibles. This film is set in a world where superheroes exist, but they've been banned from helping the public after a series of controversies ruined their reputations. The story focuses on the Paws, a family of supers who are struggling to fit in with society. Father and husband Bob is also feeling really unsatisfied with his life, greatly missing the good old days of being a hero, and ends up not fully appreciating his family. One day, Bob is invited to an island to use his super strength powers to protect a company from evil robots, but it turns out to be a trap crafted by the villain Syndrome. It's up to the rest of the Paws to come to his rescue. Director Brad Bird expertly explores superhero politics by highlighting their value to society, while also using the relatable theme of a midlife crisis to show how loved ones can help you through rough times. It's a film that has something for the whole family. There's fun superhero action sequences, hilarious laugh-out-loud comedy that draws from identifiable family situations, and moving drama detailing a man's hardships as a superhero/father and husband. Not to mention, the movie is packed with highly memorable supporting characters too, each one providing something special, whether it's Edna, the eccentric costume designer who steals scenes with a flamboyant personality.
You will show him you remember that he is Mr. Incredible, and you will remind him who you are. Well, you know where he is. Go, confront the problem, fight, win! And call me when you get back, darling. I enjoy our visits.
Or Syndrome, a villain that chews the scenery with his self-indulgent geeky monologues while retaining a threatening presence as a bad guy. The Incredibles is a classic in both the medium of animation and the superhero genre. Toy Story. In this film's world, toys are alive, but they try to keep this fact a secret from humans. One boy, Andy, is very attached to his cowboy doll Woody, who serves as the responsible leader of Andy's toys, and tries to help this bedroom community live happily together. However, the status quo is changed when Andy gets a brand new toy for his birthday, a fancy action figure called Buzz Lightyear, who genuinely believes that he's not a toy, but an actual space ranger. and Andy considers Buzz to be his new favourite toy. Woody becomes incredibly jealous of Buzz. The two develop a rivalry, one thing leads to another, and the duo end up in the house of a destructive boy called Sid. While there, Buzz discovers for the first time that he's a toy, and Woody faces the consequences of his envy. For a studio's first ever production, Toy Story is an excellent effort. Its tale teaches the lesson that jealousy can corrupt even the nicest of people, so it's important to watch your behaviour and know when you're losing yourself to dark thoughts. But it also uses Buzz's stubborn egomania and eventual awakening to delve into a deep philosophy on facing reality, and how convincing yourself that you're more special than you really are is a dangerous self-deception, which will hit you hard once you realise the truth. Not to mention the dynamic of neurotic Woody and delusional Buzz Lightyear is comedy gold. It's a fantastic pairing because they clash so well. We can't help but laugh at Woody losing his shit at Buzz's campy, self-absorbed antics.
You are a toy! You weren't the real Buzz Lightyear, you're an action figure! You are a child's plaything!
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity. Farewell.
But it's a relationship that does become sentimental, as Woody learns to respect and accept Buzz as Andy's new favourite toy, while Buzz begins to understand that the cowboy resented him out of fear. Toy Story is a movie that entertains us with its funny characters, but also challenges us with existential philosophy and morals about jealousy. It's perhaps one of the best debuts from an animation studio ever. Toy Story 2. This sequel to Toy Story has Woody being kidnapped by a greedy toy collector who adds him to his merchandise collection inspired by Woody's Roundup, a classic TV show starring Woody, Jessie the Cowgirl, Stinky Pete the Prospector, and Bullseye the Horse. The collector plans to sell Woody and his Roundup gang to a toy museum in Japan. Buzz and the rest of Andy's toys go on an adventure to rescue their cowboy friend, but Woody slowly becomes attracted to the appeal of being immortalized in a museum, as it's a way to avoid being abandoned or forgotten. This is how you make an animated sequel, folks. Toy Story 2 taps into the common relatable fear of being forgotten, that scary feeling that will one day fade away. It does this by criticizing the fantasy of immortality. It strips away the romanticization of living forever by saying that being alive is more satisfying than being remembered.
I don't have a choice, Buzz. This is my only chance.
To do what, Woody? Watch kids from behind glass and never be loved again? Some life.
This wonderfully contrasts against Andy's toys going on a fun city adventure, a journey that addresses how vulnerable these toys are outside their home, as they're small plastic characters who want to keep their sentience a secret. But we also get to see Andy's toys going to an actual toy store, making for some entertaining interactions and a chance for the now healthy-minded Buzz to see where he came from. I think Toy Story 2 not only surpasses the first movie, but it's also my favourite film from Pixar at this point. It's an impressively intelligent and highly humorous film that obliterates the stigma that animated sequels are inherently bad. So, those were my choices for the top 5 best Pixar films. I'd like to know what your list would look like, so let me know in the comment section below, okay? I've been Jamboree, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then feel free to subscribe to my channel, because I do produce quite a lot of these top 5 best and worst videos. If you'd like to support me, then consider making a monthly pledge to my Patreon in return for awesome rewards. Thank you. So, what am I going to be doing for my next top 5 best and worst video? Well, that's entirely up to you folks. Yeah, I've put a poll in the description box below. I'm very excited to find out which studio, director or franchise I'll be doing next. Cheerio, folks.